you should be very clear about why you are going to give SAT. See, because if my friend is giving the SAT or my parents wants me to give the SAT, doesn't really help you prepare. So the first thing or the first motto should be that why I'm preparing for it. My goals should be very clear. People are underestimating the RC passages because after digital SAT came into the picture, the passages on English have become tougher. So people are, they're still assuming the old SAT, and the level of prep they are doing is same. So if you feel that you don't have those reading skills, then you should try and follow the strict strategy. Say, for example, read your passage wise. Don't keep SAT for the last moment, because SAT is not a very tough exam if you're regular with it.
Welcome back to another episode on the Vibrant Publishers podcast. Today we have with us Ms. Chinu Vasudeva, a seasoned test prep expert with over 18 years of experience. She has held several leadership positions with industry giants like the Princeton Review, the Veritas Prep, and so on. Driven by her passion to empower students on their paths to higher education, she founded Doyen-Ed and is here to share her expertise with the digital SAT. Welcome to our podcast, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Great. I'd like to start and ask you on how students should begin their prep about the SAT. What's the best way to approach, and how can they start building a strong foundation in the test prep?
So I'll tell you, when somebody is looking to start with their SAT prep, there are three very important parameters that I would recommend, they should start with. Number one is goal or the motivation. You should be very clear about why you are going to give SAT. See, because if my friend is giving the SAT or my parents wants me to give the SAT, doesn't really help you prepare. So the first thing or the first motto should be that why I'm preparing for it. My goals should be very clear. The number two thing that I would recommend is that you must give a mock test before you start your prep. See, because what I'm going to prepare for next 2 months or 3 months, I should be very clear with what I'm going to prepare. That helps me stay focused. And the most important thing here is to be very, very okay with the resources that I'm going to use. Because if I have good resources, I will make a proper timetable for that and I'll be able to follow that. So when you are starting with your prep, these are the three foundations that you should have: goal setting, knowing the exam, and preparing a timetable.
That's great advice. The goal set to prepare and then give the exam. So you spoke of understanding resources, and I think that would take some time. So ideally, how much time in advance should students start preparing for the SAT to maximize their scores?
Hmm. So, in that case, it's very subjective. But still, what I would recommend is that you should have around 2 to 3 months with yourself. See, generally when people start with the prep, I mean, this is something I've seen in last 18 to 20 years, that they feel that they're pretty good with the English and they'll be able to manage it. But somehow after 10 days, 15 days, they realize that they're going to take more time on English. See, because, especially if I'm talking in concern with the Indian students, you've done maths all your life. You've taken tuitions for maths and you've been practicing maths. So when you start with the SAT prep, it's just get imbibed and it becomes really simple. But English takes its own time. So, if you have time to practice the passages, if you build up that stamina in yourself, so that definitely is a game changer. So you should not rush on the SAT. You should give yourself at least 1 month to get, the understanding of the concepts. Another 30 days to practice the mock tests and analyze that. So minimum 2 months.
Got it. So recently, the digital SAT has become digital. So there's a different way of answering, and the format has changed. So, are there any common mistakes that you found in this experience that you had with your students? And what are the challenges that they face, and how can they avoid them?
Hmm. So, the first thing here is that, when you're marking the answer, you have to be very clear, because there you had an OMR sheet. We all know that. And we were just doing a bubble. Here you have to click the answer, and at times if you're scrolling the screen, I've seen a lot of people making such mistakes even on the Blue Book app when they're giving the mock tests. So you have to be very careful with what you are marking. Number two, people have a calculator here, so they're kind of taking the advantage of that, but that actually brings with it, a wasting of time. So you have to be very careful about when you have to use that calculator to avoid, using that time there. Number three, that people are underestimating the RC passages, because after digital SAT came into the picture, the passages on English have become tougher. So people are, they're still assuming the old SAT, and the level of prep they are doing is same. So you have to avoid these mistakes. You have to be more diligent about how you're answering the questions. You have to be more focused on the reading comprehensions. See, because at that time you were reading on the paper, now you're reading online, so there is a difference. So you have to practice things online. So these are few things you have to keep in mind to avoid such mistakes. Avoid practicing by marking the passages. So this is something very important. Math, I won't say that there is a big difference. You still have a scratch paper, you can still, write things, of course, except for the geometry questions.
All right. You spoke something about the unseen passages and how people should take students should take time in reading those passages. But if a student wants to aim high, could you delve further into how they can score higher in that section?
Yeah, see, I'll tell you something that, when you talk about reading section, uh, you have those skills or you don't have those skills. And this may look rude to you, but it's a fact. So if you feel that you don't have those reading skills, then you should uh, try and follow the strict strategies. Say, for example, read your passage wisely. The first recommendation that I would give is that first read the question and then go to the passages. Now you have an advantage that you have shorter passages, because when we had longer passages, it was really difficult to read a passage twice or thrice. But now it's very much possible. So read the content, come to the passage. That's first thing. Number two, here, here they are not too much focused on the vocabulary now. The vocab questions that they give now are the fill in the blanks. And in those fill in the blanks, they are in the next line, they're giving you a synonym. So even if in the four options you don't get the exact meaning, but you may be able to eliminate the ones which are not the synonyms. So if you have those things in mind, even if you're not a good reader, you probably end up eliminating the wrong questions. And the most important thing, the number three, practice. Because whenever me being a SAT teacher for so many years, I've seen that students are willing to finish the maths homework, but when it comes to English, they do not want to practice. So you must practice. It's very important to read, practice those passages, because it's an abstract English. It's a kind of English which you don't regularly see in your school. So follow these strategies if you are not into reading. And believe me, if somebody is a good reader, they've been reading books, then SAT English is going to be very simple for them. I mean, they won't really need a lot of strategies to crack the correct questions.
So, what are some of the other changes that you've seen in the SAT over the years? Could you shed some light on that as well?
Yeah. So, past, maybe I can talk about last 15 years, the changes that we have seen. The biggest change is the number of hours. It used to be like almost a 4 hours exam, which was very taxing. And now it's much simpler. We have seen students giving mock test of 4 hours, taking out time from their busy schedule. Now students, it's much easier for them. And the questions in maths, there are few type of questions in maths which have gone out of SAT. Say, for example, they were long word, very long problems, abstract problems, they are gone. Questions on complex numbers are no more there on the SAT. English also, yes, there is a good vocabulary, but they are giving you passages where if you go through and read the passage, you can extract through the meaning of the passage. So, in terms of the content, I would say the level has increased, but they are more user friendly now. It's just a 2 hours exam. They have given you a lot of free resources also. So, results are coming out in 10 to 15 days. The deadlines for registrations, they are more closer to the exam, which they were not earlier. So things are improving for better, and definitely it's online. So the scope is more. The number of tests attempts have also increased. So there are a lot of good changes in SAT.
Great. I'd like to shift gears now and we'll tackle some common myths about the SAT. So there's
Sure.
an infamous one that goes that the digital SAT is inherently harder than the paper-based SAT. What are your thoughts? Is
It's
that
a
a myth
fact.
or a fact?
It's a
Fact.
fact. Yes, it's a
All
fact.
right.
The level of the passages of English have gone harder. We used to have longer passages where the content was little easier. Now it's a shorter passage, but the content that you see is tougher. It's hard. It's hard to crack. So it's a fact. One has to prepare better now. You cannot take your passages easily. Math also, the level of questions in the advanced math has increased. The questions on quadratic equations, questions on functions and graphs have increased. But at the same time, I would say that people should focus on Desmos calculator. People are underestimating it. If I talk about the last SAT which happened in June, almost 70% of the maths test you could crack through the graphing calculator on the Desmos. I mean, which is amazing. And most of the people don't even use that. So if you know how to use a graphing calculator, believe me, 60 to 70% of math is done. So it's tougher, but it's doable. You have to practice.
Got it. You spoke about the Desmos calculator, and that brings me to another myth of fact, which is the built-in calculator. Is it a guaranteed advantage?
It's a myth. It's not a guaranteed advantage. See, because you have to know how to use it wisely. So as I told you in your initial questions that because it's inbuilt, so even if you don't need it, I've seen people ending up clicking on it and wasting time. So if you know how to wisely use it, it is yes. But if you don't know, you end up wasting a lot of time. And
Got
it
it.
is not something that you can use at that particular time. Should have done the practice for last 1 2 months. I mean, even if the 6 mocks you have given, even if you have practiced there, it makes sense. But just directly using it at the paper would be a big risk.
Got it. There's another myth of fact, which is students with strong computer skills have a significant advantage. Is that a myth or a
Myth.
fact?
It's a myth. It's a myth. You need very basic computer skills. You don't need anything. You have to, go to Google, write Blue Vocab, download that on your laptop, log in. That's it. I mean, it is just 3 steps. Even a child who's in class 5 or 6 can do it.
Got it. This is a fun one. The digital SAT offers more opportunities for cheating.
It's a myth. In fact, it takes back all the opportunities to cheat. Reason number one, because it's not paper pencil anymore. I mean, there can be scenarios where you can snatch the OMR sheet of your friend who's sitting, you know, behind you or, next to you. But now it's online. You cannot. Number two, it's sectional adaptive now. We all know that. So module one that we see is same for everyone. But when you move to the module two, computer adapts to your knowledge. So if you've been doing really good on the module one, you see tougher questions. But if you are not doing good on the module one, you will see easy questions. So there's no scope of cheating. I mean, me and you, we might not have same questions. So it takes away all the opportunities.
Got it. And lastly, the digital SAT eliminates the need for traditional test prep. Is that a myth or a
Certainly.
fact?
Yeah, it's a fact. Certainly, it does. It does. Because with it, it brings a lot of advantages. I mean, uh, because everything is online now. You want to practice online. Even the apps where you are practicing, they are online. You're getting your results quickly. So you don't need to get back to the digital side because now people want things faster. So it's giving you better results, faster results. So you don't need the traditional ones. Certainly, a myth.
Got it. I'd like to finally ask you, is there any go-to advice that you would like to give to anyone who is prepping for the SAT so that they don't feel overwhelmed at the last minute, or any such advice that you would like to give to the students out there?
See, what I would like to tell of when you talk about overwhelming is that you know I have taught many students. Maybe I would say I've taught more than 5,000 students in last 15, 20 years. So people, these students of class 11th and 12th are super busy. They have a lot of things to do. They have school, they have tuitions, they have other activities, they have a lot of things related to building up the profile. So if you're deciding to take SAT, try and give enough time to SAT. Don't keep SAT for the last moment, because SAT is not a very tough exam if you're regular with it. So if you are aiming to give SAT, you know why you are giving SAT, you know the kind of score you are looking at. Please start practicing it. Be regular with your studies. Khan Academy gives you free resources. So even if you have no time for tuitions and you're doing Khan Academy, you're taking tests on Blue Book app, or you're using any material like, for example, the Vibrant material also, there are 4 books. So if you're using any such material and you are being regular with your work, it gives you a better score. So the only advice I would give is that don't keep it for last 10 days or 15 days. Of course, last 10, 15 days can be a game changer if I had been regular. But by its own, it cannot be. So it's not tough, and be good to your exam. Give enough time. So maybe you can set up like 5, 6 hours per week. That also works if you're regular.
Got it. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing all your expertise, the tips you've
Thank
shared,
you.
and the debunking of myths has been fun and it will be invaluable for our audience, I'm very sure.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for inviting me. And I loved talking to you.
If you have any questions about today's episode on the SAD prep, please feel free to leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more informative content. Until next time, see you.